The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. I'm very pleased today because I have three people on my show who are going to talk about pickleball and the craze that it is right now. Now, I want to start with Nina Bard. She has worked in the travel industry when her husband developed BRD Sport. And Nina, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you to talk about BRD Sports. Now, my other guest is Scott Miller from Miller Physical Therapy, who's talked to me about pickleball and the advantages and the disadvantages of playing it when you're old or sometimes when you're young. We'll talk about that in a moment. Our next guest is Jerry Meyer, and he likes to call himself Caramba Meyer. I'm very pleased to have you on my show for the first time, Jerry, and it's a pleasure. And I want you to tell our audience in a second what you do and why you do it. Okay, so let's get on. So first question to you is, Scott. Scott, tell us, what is the issue about pickleball as it relates to young and old people? Can they do it without getting in danger?
Well, of course they can, but it's just like anything else out there that that an individual starts to, a new activity or really any activity. If they try to overdo it or they are, playing more than their body can handle, certainly injuries are possible. And that goes for not just pickleball, but that, is the same thing with tennis. You hear a lot of young people that get hurt with CrossFit. It's the same thing. It's not the specific activity or movement. It's just sometimes your body just can't handle as much as, as you're trying to throw at it, no matter how much fun it is. And you also have to just make sure that you listen to your body and know what your muscles and tendons and everything is and your joints are telling you as far as how you're feeling, because if you don't, you're going to pay for it and you're going to end up being sidelined and not being able to play. So just like any other sport or activity, it's no different. It's no more dangerous than other certain activities. It's just the overuse and the frequency that people play is usually what causes these injuries.
Now, Jerry, let me know, you're a pickleball player and you've experienced a lot. Now, you just heard what Scott said. Tell us about yourself, and also, how do you feel about what Scott said?
I absolutely agree with him. The thing about pickleball is that it's so addictive. So once people start playing, they tend to then overdo it. These people that, very addictive. Once you start playing, they'll start playing all day, every day, all of a sudden. And then that's when they obviously, overuse. There's a lot of lateral movement in the sport. So you've got to move left and right a lot, and it's fairly low down. So it's fairly heavy on your joints. So you need to be wise about it. And a lot of people run into trouble early on because it's so addictive and they just want to play all the time.
Yeah. What about you, Nina? You sell products that help people who have pickleball injuries. Why did you start this, and how has it made a difference in your life?
Well, it's really kind of funny because I think I told you another time that two different friends a couple of years ago, a week apart, came back from vacation. Both called me for ankle braces because both had ankle injuries. I asked them, what happened? How'd you hurt your ankle? And they both, in different states, said pickleball. And I said, what's pickleball? And that was the beginning. And so in terms of injuries, whether obviously more for seniors, the injuries, but even younger people, and what everyone's been saying, One of the things on the pickleball court compared to tennis, it's a smaller court. There's a lot more lateral movements that Jerry just spoke about. And so that's why both of my friends twisted their ankles, okay, right out the gate. Jerry is someone who wears a lot of our products, and he can speak to it. He wears 2 compression ankle braces, which just increase stabilization, blood flow, and a little bit can be a preventative product, but it's also a recovery product. So we make compression bracing. Someone like Jerry, and he can talk about it, wears the 2 knees, 2 ankles, the wrist braces, helps with the tennis, not the tennis, the racket. And so our tagline is relief in motion. You can still, whether it's tennis, pickleball, golf, all kinds of activities. The correct compression bracing can help recovery of injuries, and in some cases act as a preventative. And so we got into it, and it's been growing and into all different kinds of activities. It could be the postman walking all day, and he needs some support. It's all the same kind of thing.
Jerry, let me ask you something. Nina just said that you use some of these devices that she has available in her company. Now, how has that helped you, and do you still use it?
Yeah, I use it all the time. For me, it's kind of like armor that I put on before I go play. And for me, it's preventative. When I had a Achilles tendon repair in one of my ankles, and I used to run a lot of marathons when I was young, so my knees are creaky. I don't have really a specific injury, but you put a lot of torque on your wrists with the pickleball paddles. So I just wear it as armor. And, I'm 58 years old, and I still run around like, when I was 25. Like a crazy person, and I sort of need the armor to be able to do that.
You just said that you run around like a crazy person. Scott, he runs around like a crazy person. What should he do to protect himself besides Nina's things that she offers?
Well, it depends if he has any specific issues that he's been dealing with, and then there are specific things that can help strengthen and stabilize those specific joints. But overall, the best thing for prevention of injury really is staying mobile. Keeping your joints and your muscles as mobile and as stretched as possible really helps prevent a lot of injuries out there. It makes you more nimble. It makes you more flexible. It can make you, in the case of pickleball, it certainly can prevent muscle strains because you're not stressing the muscle tendon unit as much as you would if there's quite a bit of tightness inside of a joint. So, mobility is probably the number one thing that I would say is the most important. And then, of course, strength and stability and overall balance exercises are definitely the next most important. And as individuals get older, we just start losing our proprioception, which is kind of our awareness of where our body is in space. It's includes balance, and it involves your vision and your hearing. And as vision goes and your hearing starts to go, your balance and stability can go as well. So, if you really work on balance and stability, it can really prevent falls, both just your traditional fall while you're walking, or it's going to make you more stable when you're playing and running around a pickleball court. If your balance is good, you're going to be much less likely to fall on a pickleball court and suffer pretty severe injuries that I've seen.
Now, Jerry, you play pickleball and you play it all the time. You said you're addicted to it. Now, here's the thing. You heard what Scott said. Do you follow some of his rules that can protect you more?
Yeah, I've definitely learned over time to moderate my playing, not play as much. And also it's really important to stretch and warm up. So I have a warm-up routine before I start playing. to get, like he says, to be loose and limber before you start playing. And what people do is when they're in that heavily addicted phase, they'll play 7 days a week. And really, that's your body struggles to handle that. You have to give yourself some recovery time in between. Be sensible, over time you learn to be sensible about it. So now I play every second day. Exercise in between. Keep your, you have to repair your body and do some other exercises and stay fit.
Yeah. Now that brings me to Nina again. But Nina, here's the thing. You sell all these devices. Now, you must have a story about somebody who's come to you and talked to you about the devices. Tell us a little story about it.
Oh, wow. I think the most exciting is when he's actually a veterinarian, and we were talking about something else, was on the phone, and found out he was a vet. So I was asking him about my dog, and then he found out that I had this business, and he said, oh yeah, I've had a number of surgeries on my Achilles. I have scar tissue. I live with pain. I used to be a runner. I can't run anymore. It's really left me. And I said to him, you know what? Let me send you my Achilles. And no. I said, I'm not even charging you. I'm telling you, we can change your life. He said, you're crazy. I said, just measure, please measure, because everything we make is in 6 sizes. And even from that, sometimes we customize. So he gave me a size. I sent it to him. The end of the story is the first phone call was, I was on my elliptical, but I wasn't getting the shocks in my ankle that I used to get. I don't understand it. A few weeks later, after wearing it and recovering, he said, maybe it was a little bit longer, he was training for a marathon. So I've heard this over and over again. And I'm sure that Scott, depending on the injury, sometimes what it needs is the blood flow, the reduction of inflammation, the stability. It's not so complicated. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And I've had a lot of people shocked at the recovery with some of the products. Jerry knows we had one of the pros wearing a knee brace because he had an old injury, and he played wearing the knee brace. And eventually, after about 6 months, the knee brace was off and he was playing. And I called him. I said, you're supposed to be wearing the knee brace. And he said, it's healed. I don't need to wear it. So I'm not. And to this day, I haven't seen it on him. So those are some of my stories, whether it's someone in the sports world or just a regular person.
Yeah. Well, I want to address this to Scott again. You just heard what Nina said, and Nina told the little story. Do you have a story of somebody who came into your physical therapy practice and said, oh my God, I played pickleball today and I'm in so much pain?
Sure. We see patients all the time, whether, in pickleball has certainly been one of the most fastest growing sports ever. And, with that being said, and with the senior population down here in Delray Beach, Florida, every single community is building pickleball courts, and all the parks have the pickleball courts. So sure, we see patients all the time that are coming in after the weekend or during the week that, are having, some little ankle issues, and some of the less severe stuff that we've seen, all the time with same as tennis, with, some shoulder tendinitises, and, in pickleball, you're seeing a little bit more of the lower extremity stuff, which is more of the knee, the hips, and the ankles, because it is a lot of lateral movements and it's a lot of lower movements than you do see in tennis, where, you see a lot more of the shoulders and elbows and wrists in tennis. But we see that all the time. We take them through a whole treatment program, and, we're never ones to say, just stop completely playing, but we try to get them back on the court as quickly as possible, try to modify their movements a little bit, give them a good stretching and strength program. And, like Nancy was saying, bracing is certainly very effective for certain injuries. And I I actually like the bracing better, more for prevention than when someone is actually really hurt. I think it's better to to kind of have that support, which helps increase blood flow to the area and help stabilize the joint. If maybe you've had some issues in the past and you don't have pain anymore, it certainly is a nice thing to sometimes wear, just for that additional mental well-being, confidence, and for that a little additional support. And you see that a lot in professional athletes as well, that basketball players are wearing the compression wraps on their arms, and they're wearing the knee braces in football. So it certainly is done on a preventative measure in my field.
Jerry, you didn't tell us your story. How did you start, and why did you start? Because needless to say, it sounds like you're loving every minute of it. You seem to have a passion for it. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I used to be a tennis player, and about 6 years ago, pickleball started in Atlanta in our subdivisions, and it started out as similar to Alta Tennis, as a 5-line league that we started playing. And I was just really, I had a knack for it. I was really good at it. And then I've since stopped playing. I've become a teaching pro, and I'm the resident club pro at Crestwind Twin Lakes up here in Brazelton. And I still have a full-time job on the side. I wore a lot of different braces before I got to BRD. And Nina's braces just work much better than anything else. So I've been wearing it for years. And I'm fairly well known for it too. I'm a sponsored player. I'm sponsored by Head, and I also wear the BRD braces. Everybody knows me for it. And there's a lot of the top pro players that also use it, just because it's really the best product out there for that kind of support.
Well, Nina, here's the interesting thing. He loves your product, and obviously there are a lot of other people who feel the same way. Now, Scott talked about prevention.
Right.
Do you sell your things to people who just want to make sure that they're not going to get hurt?
It depends on the product. In other words, if you don't have an elbow problem, I don't think you're going to bother with an elbow brace. But the ankles are very good. We call them proactive. In other words, they help to prevent injuries. They give you stability. We have a number of products that are proactive and recovery, and some that are straight recovery. It depends. I was going to say something. It's interesting. Today's Senior Magazine really sought us out for quite a while and they were right. Our product is right for the people that read their magazine, and so it's a baby boomer thing. And so we've been in there now for a few months, and I'm really glad about that, because it's getting out to people that wouldn't find us. Everything is made here in the United States, 100%. New Jersey, everything is made here. It's an American product, family owned. We don't have a huge marketing. What we have are satisfied customers like Jerry, who came to us originally trying us out, and then, so on and so forth. We have a lot of referral people, and we have a lot of doctors referring us, people like Scott that know about us and will say to a patient, you know what, give this company a call for this ankle brace, or this knee brace might work good for you. So we're kind of the best kept secret, and we're growing, but yeah. I truly believe that we can improve people's quality of life, because it's so hard to get good bracing here. It's so hard.
Now, Nina, we're dealing with a COVID right now, right, and people are not going out. They're wearing masks and doing things like that. Are they still, from your point of view, are they still going out and playing pickleball?
Yeah. even the worst, and Jerry can tell you, even the worst time when COVID was at its worst a year ago, you still had all the tournaments going on, but they didn't allow people in the stands. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Jerry can address locally what people were doing. But I think they were. And what's interesting, you know, our products aren't in the stores because you have to be measured. You have to measure yourself. Everything's in 6 sizes. So to my surprise, during COVID, where I expected us to be like, forget about it, we got bigger because people could do it from home. And Jerry's the person to ask about what you just asked me.
Well, Jerry, you heard what she said. So what about you? During these COVID times, have you been playing pickleball? And do you have to wear, you have?
No, it's really social distance. You know, you're not in close proximity. And during there were measures at the height of the pandemic where tournaments were regulated. You know, if you weren't playing, you had to wear a mask. There were no spectators allowed.
Right.
At one point, each player had their own, you know, had their own ball to start a rally with when it was at its worst, but it never stopped. Plus, individually, players kept working on their game. So a lot of people actually improved their play during the pandemic because there's nothing else you can do. You know, you're locked up and you do need to exercise. So they just went out and drilled. That's a big aspect of the sport, is just drilling to make yourself better, which is something you can do in, you know, completely social distanced.
Yeah.
Didn't really slow down. Pickleball was one of the things that I think kept a lot of people sane, you know, through the whole pandemic.
Jerry, we talked about older people playing, but what about younger people? Is this a sport that they like, or is it only tennis and of course baseball?
No, it's now the fastest growing sport in the country, and it was driven. It was originally invented in 1965, and then after that, it did have a run in schools as a PE activity. So it was taught in the 80s. It was taught in middle schools as a PE activity, and then in the 19s and early 2000s, the growth was driven by active adult communities, 55 plus and older retired people that used to play tennis started playing pickleball because, you know, it's not as strenuous. You don't have the court is much smaller, so you don't have to run it as much. So you can really play it from, you know, from the age of 5 up to 100. There's really, you can play it into your very late years, which is really what drove the growth up until, say, 2015. And then it started swinging back because it had grown so much. It started swinging back to younger and younger players. The best player in the world is 21 years old now, and he's about to be unseated by a 19-year-old.
Do you think that this is going to be in the Olympics? But what's your thoughts about this, Scott? You know, the Olympics are a very special event. And now that this is so popular, what do you think? Do you think it'll be an Olympic sport?
Well, it's going to be, it's going to take some time before it can, you know, eventually be approved for the Olympics. Only reason being is that, you know, it is, you know, it needs that worldwide popularity and appeal. If you think about how popular baseball is here in America, we went years without baseball in the Olympics. So, you know, it's not that easy to you know, to get a sport approved for the Olympics, but it definitely has the making for a future Olympic sport. If it continues to have this growth here and abroad, it probably will be sooner than later.
You know, all of you, I'd like you to say the last word because our show is almost up. So, Nina, what do you have to say to our audience that you think is very important and very necessary?
Well, I think obviously, regardless of your age, to be active and to exercise. And there's many ways now to be able to continue. And so pickleball is one great way. And whether you're going to the gym, if you're doing a triathlon, if you're simply taking a walk, you know, it's a good thing. And there are products out there for you to keep you going. And that's kind of my end of this conversation. We have a player, a professional physical therapist, and I'm business, you know, so I think it's full circle.
Yeah, there you go. If people want to get to know a little bit more about your products, Nina, how do they do that?
Okay, well, we sell online. We are in some clubs or in some doctor's offices, but basically they can just go to my website. It's BRD Sport, no S on the end. It shows all the products. It has videos, how to measure. You can always call me. My number's on there. I'm more than happy to work with anybody. And that's it. We're available, BRD Sport.
Scott, what about you? If people want to get in touch with you, and we've talked about this a lot, and you're a guest that's been on my show many times, and there are so many subjects that you've talked about, but I want people to know how to get to you because you're fabulous. And I can speak to that because I go to you. So tell people how they get in touch with you.
Well, I have a private practice, Miller Physical Therapy in Delray Beach, Florida. And if you just go on to the internet and type in Miller Physical Therapy, Delray Beach, our website pops right up. It's miller-pt.com. You can see all the information about me, about my practice. There's hundreds and hundreds of articles on different injuries and different body parts. And then there's also a contact us page where the email gets, I see those emails directly, and a phone number for our office. Then you certainly can reach out to me at any point to, if there are any questions related to any specific injuries, whether it's pickleball related or something else. But, as usual, Sue, I really enjoy being on your show. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to some future shows with you.
Absolutely a pleasure. Jerry, what about you? I assume that you have a full-time job, but there must be a website that people can go to find out how you think about this sport, how you can teach them, how you can help them. What do you think?
Yes. I have a website, Ay Caramba Pickleball. That's my nickname because in pickleball, if you play in tournaments, you cannot cuss. So sometimes you get upset, and I just took to using using Ay Caramba, and that eventually became my name and then my brand. So my website's Ay Caramba Pickleball. It's available on the internet, and as I said, I coach over here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, and anybody can get in contact with me to learn or better their game. And then it's like Nina said, it's important, especially the older you get, it becomes more imperative to stay active, even if you just walk. But you need to, the older you get, the more important it is to do something and stay active and not, become sedentary.
Well, you've been great guests. You've talked a lot about this wonderful game called pickleball and how it is advancing and becoming one of the major sports around. And I want to thank you so much for being on my show. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue.